Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to World of Warcraft, the miniatures game. So I'm going to do a two-part video, just right off the bat. The first one, I'm just going to kind of go over the overview of what the game is, and kind of how the mechanics all work, how the gameplay works, and all that, because it's actually a really fun and interesting, game. It has some new concepts to it for a miniature skirmish type game. Then the second video, I'm actually going to be going through my collection, showing off all the different miniatures themselves, as well as the cards and abilities that they have. So if you just want to see that stuff, you can jump to it. Although I don't have a complete collection, there were two sets that came out, the core set and Spoils of War. I don't have a full collection. I probably have half overall, so it won't be every single character, but it'll be as much as I have. So this set we're going to kind of go through. So basically, what the concept is, what is World of Warcraft. If you're not, for some reason, familiar with what the game is, the online game, is you play as various races and factions, and you fight each other, and that's more or less the gist of it. And there's two major factions. There's the Alliance, and then the Horde, which it's not really a good versus evil game, which is always, it's a fun idea. It's supposed to essentially be, the Alliance is more of your, like your regular humanoid looking people, like the quote unquote, like pretty people. It's your human race, it's not the dark elves, is it the night elves? No, it's some of the elves. I can't remember which one off the top of my head. Might be night elves, because blood elves are on the other side. But that's, like dwarves, gnomes, humans, some elves. And then on the Horde side, which are more like the monstrous creatures, your Taurens, your trolls, your orcs, your undead. And then this game, because of course it's a massively multi-on-player game, so you can play around Rome. So if you're not fighting the other groups, you're also fighting monsters. And so this game also represents some monsters you can play as well. So it makes a really fun thing. So you kind of actually have three factions in this game. Again, it's not really like one is the good side, one's the evil side, because it's a perspective thing. These guys are probably, the monsters are bad, but these guys are like, the other people are trying to take over our land, like we're just trying to do stuff. So it's that type of thing. So what this does with the game here is we're going to have a playboard. So now this is the play mat that comes in a standard core set, or a standard starter set, just a flip-outable map. You can buy a bigger core set, which is the box I was showing, which will have a board that you can play on as well. But they both work the same way. You have these hex tiles, and you're trying to do different stuff. So you have spawn points. This is where your characters start from. If you die, that's where they come back to. There's victory points. Your ultimate goal is to try and score so many victory points. You have there's a little mark on the bottom here that shows 11. And you score victory points by either being next to the victory point marker, or by defeating your opponents. So it's just kind of an area control / defeat your opponents type of thing. Then there's other little things there. So you're going to get these little miniatures, which are actually nicely detailed. They're all colored, they're painted, and they came in booster boxes. So you buy one, you get, I think you got 2 or 3 characters in each one. I don't remember. I think it was 2. And then they came with their character cards. Every character always came with the same cards, so it wasn't a thing of like you were also buying random cards. And then your characters are going to move along the board and then attack each other. Ranged attacks, melee attacks. There's other different stuff you can do. So there's actually, and we'll get into the combat in just a moment here. But one of the other cool things is you also get these bases, which they called them U bases. I don't know if that's just because it was made by Upper Deck or not. But your character will sit on here, and then there will be a little hole in the bottom. this will keep track of your health. And then as you click, or you can like click your character around on the base, and you can keep track of your health. So that way, at any point, someone could pick up your character and see how much health they had. It actually stays in there fairly well. So like I snap them in there, it stays in there, so it's not, if you pick them up to move them, that's not constantly falling, so you don't have to necessarily slide them. But that's a neat way to keep track of health versus just having like a token on their card and everyone always having to look over. The other thing on here is this bottom ring that flips around. This is the action bar. It's trying to think what they call it. It's the clock is what they call it. So you start at 0, and then every time you do certain actions, you're going to tick up so many notches. So if you do a small action, or if you don't do anything, you don't do any action other than moving, you have to tick once. But if you do a big action, maybe 4, might do something that costs 7, a huge action. So what it works like is then there's this big bar up here which keeps track of the turn. So then everyone looks at, and this shows on both sides, which is really nice. You can kind of keep track depending on where you are on the field. So like if this guy's at action or clock point 7, he doesn't get to do anything again until the timer hits 7. So it plays into the thing of World of Warcraft, where when you're playing the game, all your abilities have cooldowns. So when you do an attack or you cast a special spell, it takes time for that to regenerate to be able to go again. So it's not just, I'm going to run up, mash, or my turn, I get to attack. Your turn, you attack. My turn, I attack. It rewards you for playing strategically. Maybe you have to, maybe you're going to perform a bigger attack. Great, but then it means you have to wait longer for that character to attack again. Or someone else might perform 2 smaller attacks or quicker attacks in that same amount of time. And every character has different attacks and different times. And then there's action bar cards, which give people more abilities, which are really fun, so we'll get into that. So then you have like red for the Horde. You can get blue for the Alliance, and then green are the monsters. That's the overall gist of it. Alright, so unfortunately, I can't find my stupid rule book anywhere. It happens with whenever I have trading card or collectible games, because they're not generally all just in a box together. So we're going to kind of just do a quick run through on how I kind of explain it. So this is what comes in a typical starter box. Is you're going to get these 4 characters. And every box has like a clear opening. If you buy the bigger core box, which again, it's going to be the deluxe edition core box, you get 6 random miniatures. So that's just kind of fun though, as you could buy that and get extra stuff. And this one you only get the bases for the Horde and Alliance. You don't get monster bases or monster dice. You have to buy one of the bigger sets. So if you're trying to get all that, you're going to want to try and find them. They are really probably not cheap to get. So yeah, here's what you're going to score victory points. Equal to your party's combined honors. So it has to. So there's how it works. It's not just 11. It has to depend on your honor. So it says in this set, everyone has 6. You have a 5 honor character and a 6 honor character. But basically, that's the sort of thing is you can debate on how big your team you want to go. I think typically people play, 2 or 3 characters, but you could play up to 5 depending on maybe what character you have, what you want. But you probably want to agree on while you're playing with other people, maybe agree on what a set total is, because you probably don't want to have one guy have 8 honor and the other guy have 21. Although it means you guy have 8 is probably one hand might have an easier chance of winning because they have to collect less VP. But if the guy has 21 has 5 guys versus 2, it might be easier for them just to keep killing the other guys over and over and over just by gaining sheer process of gaining up on them. So you just want to make sure you bounce them easily. So then 2 ways to score VP. You score 4 for each enemy defeated. So if you're playing with 11, you'd have to defeat, 3 guys. So 4, 8, 12. At the end of ticks, which are the clocks, ticks 5 and 10, you score 1 VP for each of your characters on or adjacent to the VP location. So if you can get your characters near this center spot, you can gain extra VP as well. But being that there's only one spot like on this board, you're gonna have to fight everyone for it. The closest, especially if you have like a ranged character, which this guy's a giant crossbow and this is a mage. They're both probably more or less ranged characters. They're probably not gonna want to stand directly next to it because they're probably a little bit more fragile. Alright, then there's you're gonna get little character cards. You're gonna have a bunch of information on their name, race, class, and we'll go over these in just a minute. So then playing the actual game starts at clock 1, just like each personal clock. And then whenever you roll a die, person goes first. So then you spawn at one of the spawn points nearest to your side of the board. So like at the top here we have Horde and Alliance. So this guy would spawn here. This guy would spawn here. I don't technically use the monster in this game. So if these two are fighting, they're just going to spawn like that. And then they're going to have various actions they can take. So during each character's turn, they can move up to 2 spaces. And then additional, they can take actions. The character won't take it until their clock hits. If more than one personal clock matches, if characters at the same personal clock belong to the same player, chooses which character goes first. So if I'm on tick number 5 and I have 2 of my characters are both already at 5, I get to choose who goes first. If both characters on the board are 5, it's whoever played last. So if the Alliance went last turn and then now they hit 5, the Horde character gets to go first, just to kind of keep that a little bit even. And then every turn it always advances by 1. The clock always advances by 1. After round 10, all characters with a personal clock of 10 have taken their turn, so the master clock wraps around to 1 to begin a new round. So that's basically what it's going to be. So if this guy's sitting here and I hit 7, 8, 9, 10, it's 10 is 0, it's going to wrap me back around to 0, and then I start back over. So if I was at 9 and I played a thing that did 3, I'd just click 1, 2, 3, and it would put me at spot 2. And then when the timer hits 10, it would just reset back around. Just certain things happen at rounds 5 and 10, which is why they have them highlighted on the board. They also have up at the top of here a nice reminder. So each turn, move up to 2 spaces, which is optional. Take an action, which is optional. And then advance your clock. So no matter what, you always advance 1, unless you perform an action, which advances it more. And then how you score your points. It's fairly simple there. Movement doesn't carry over, so you have to spend it. So then there's special space on others. The forest and the hill space take up 2 movement points. So unless the character gets a movement bonus, they must be adjacent to a forest or hill at the start of the turn. So that's going to be these little spots here. So if this guy's right here, I can spend 2 points to move into here. I could spend my 2 points to move there. And I could spend 2 points to move out. Otherwise, you have to go all the way around. So it makes them a little bit more strategic. You can move through allied characters in your party, but you can't move through enemy characters. You can't end on a spot already occupied, and movement is completely optional and can be done either before or after taking before or after. For example, a character can't move 1 space and take an action, so I can either move and attack, or I can attack and then move, but I can't move, attack, and then move. So basically, you can't run, snipe someone, then move, because once you've done, so that's just so you don't like run up, hit someone, and then try and run away, is more or less what that is. So here's an example of like someone doing that. Gorbella's card, he has timer 3, range 1, and melee 6. So the little clock on there, hourglass is tick cost, so he has to advance by 3. Range is how far away you can attack, up to 1 space. You just gotta find the shortest distance. Now you can cross diagonally. So that does make... Ooh, I knocked her over. So you can go cross through here as long as it's in adjacent space. It doesn't always have to be just the next hex. It can be an angled hex as well. Or I'm sorry, it has to be 1 hex away. Yeah, sorry, I misread that. Yeah, so here it's showing here. Count space is 1 adjacent to your character. So she's two spaces away, so it has to be 1, 2. So he'd have to be here to do a melee attack. That might be fine for a ranged attack. Forest hills and enemy characters block line of sight. Character prevents them from seeing each other. So this would be, he can't shoot through the forest or hills. Or, if he was way over here, and I just threw my tiger on the floor. If he was here, I would have to attack the monster versus the alliance character. I can't attack through other characters. Again, it says enemy characters. So you can attack through an ally. It would just be assumptions, basically. Your ally knows that you're not going to hit them. And there's 2 different main types of things. There's physical and magic, which have to deal with defense, and then criticals. So that's the more or less the gist of that. Combat works very simple. So choose an enemy within range, then each player rolls dice equals to the attack's powers. Each success on a die, 4 through crit, is a hit, which creates 1 point of damage. At least 1 crit is rolled. Any of the crits effects hit, but multiple crits don't do anything. If it reads damage plus 1, it's added. So if the armor is a physical, or if the attack is physical, it uses armor defense. If it's magical, it uses magic shields. So basically, it's the number of hits you rolled minus the number of blocks is the damage done. So here we have, like, in the example in here, we have Gorbelly makes a mighty swing at Ruby Gemsparkle with the Drake Talon Cleaver, paying 3 kicks for a 6 attack. His controller rolls 6 dice, rolling a 1, 3, 4, 9, and 2 crits. So he has gotten 4 successes. So the 4 and the 9 and the 2 crits are all considered successes. So he's dealing 4 damage right now. Despite rolling 2 crits, the attack crit effect only happens once. So he gains plus 1 for 5 because that's what his crit effect did. And then Ruby defends herself with her 1 armored shield. So her shield is a 7, which successfully blocks 1 of the 5 damage. So she takes 4 damage. So it's turned from 5 health to 1. So, like, just looking at that, like, you can get very close to killing people in 1, 2 hits. This isn't long, drawn out, combat. You're going to kill someone, they're going to die, they're going to respawn. Kind of whatever the terrains I'm not going to go over. Although attacking from a hill, you can choose to reroll 1 dice after the attack, and defending from the forest, you can choose to roll 1 defense. So basically, the hill, your higher ground, you're shooting down. You can reroll 1 of your attacks, basically an attack advantage. If you're hiding in the forest, you get extra defense. You can choose to reroll your defense. Damage is permanent. Unless it's healed, or there is healing spells or ways to heal. Character takes enough damage, brings its health to 0, it is destroyed. The character is destroyed, remove it from the board, return it to its card, then advance its tick clock by 2. Will respawn at that faction spawn point with full health. So yeah, you can die and you'll just keep coming back. So that kind of makes this a fun party game. It's not like other skirmish games. Generally, once your character's done, they're done. It's the last man standing. This is like, oh, my guy died. I get to respawn him. So even if you roll bad 1 turn, it's not that bad. You get to come back. It's just the thing is, if you have like a weaker character, you're gonna have to watch not putting them back into the thing. And there's other special abilities we'll kind of go over. So look at some of the cards. Then what you can do is, after you play a few rounds that way, you can add these action bar cards. So characters can have up to 2 action bar cards. So again, if you're familiar with World of Warcraft, you have your little skill action bar at the bottom of your screen, unless you move it somewhere else, which are your various other spells and skills and magical abilities. They're like the ones you can swap around. So each character comes with 2 that go with that character. And they're going to be various things. They're going to have various costs, which are how many ticks they spend to use. They have ranges, different types, different abilities, a bunch of different ones, and we'll go over all them. But when you play them both face down at the beginning of the game. So your opponents don't know what you have when you start combat. So this makes it really fun, because as you buy more sets, you can mix and match, add different ones. So if I'm playing as a warrior, and I bought a different warrior, I got a different warrior character, I can swap some of their abilities, so my opponent won't know what ability I have at the beginning of the match. Then at some point when you play it, you flip it over, they'll see what it has. And then from now on, they'll know you have that ability. But at least it's kind of neat. You can keep stuff hidden as long as you think you need to. So it says, like, right here, to play an action bar, first flip it face up, then read the text, then exhaust it, turn it sideways. After exhausting, pay the cost described, and the kick at the upper corner. Once an action bar card is played on its cooldown, it can't be played again until it's ready. So at the end of turn kick, they ready. So normally, like any of your character's actions, they kick and then they go and the clock hits that amount. When you use one of your action bar cards, you can use once per every 10. So if you use it on turn 1, you can't use it again till turn 10. If you use it on turn 9, you still can't use it till turn 10. So it's like a once per like overall round. But generally you're not going to have more than like maybe 2, maybe 3 actions per round anyhow. So again, it's not like this is saying it's 10 turns. So if like my first character goes and he plays a thing that does 3, and then the next guy and the opponent does something that does 4, it's going to just go 1. Nobody's ready on turn 2. Guy's ready on turn 3. And if he plays something that jumps him up to 8 or 9, and the next guy jumps up to 8 or 9, it's just going to go, okay, 4, 5, 6. It's just going to skip to the next person. So the timer will go pretty fast. So yeah, having to wait. So yeah, you did use them, but you have to wait. As this cards are flip face up, remain face up. Cards are face down, remain face down. Ready action bar cards can be played during the next round. Doesn't matter if they're face up or face down. And there's a bunch of different ones there. And we'll look at all those in a minute. So the only other restrictions for that is a character on an action bar card only if it has restrictions that match it, and can't have 2 copies of the same card. So you can't basically be like, I'm going to have 2 healing potions or 2 chain lightnings. You can have one version of that card. And then this just explains how to build the party. All characters must have the same faction, horde, alliance, or monsters. Can't mix and match. But you can have multiple of the same character in the same party. So this is the only thing that's kind of weird, because, again, like most other general, I guess like skirmish type games, like war games, you have like tank or like infantry soldier. Every character is named. With the exception of some of the monsters. Lots of the monsters kind of are like their monster type. And they might have different versions, because they have different versions of the characters. Like there's multiple Murlocs or multiple merfolk characters. So there's things like that. But all the main characters are all named characters. So instead of it just being like, I'm playing as a troll shaman or a druid tauren, or a human mage, you're playing as a specific character. So you can have multiple. But the fun would be having different characters. And that's basically how that is. So this is just a quick reminder. Kick, range, health, crit. A bunch of that stuff. Alright. Actually, before we jump into the cards, let's look at the board a little bit more. So this is our core mat. So what you can do is it has an alternate side, which you can flip over, which has a little bit bigger. So if you want to play with more stuff, it moved. Kind of got rid of the rules. This is called Ashing Vale. Added up to more points at the top. So if you have higher victory points, you have a bigger field, play with more things. You have more hills, and you have 2 victory points. So that's kind of a fun thing that they did there. And then if you got the core set, you can get this big old board. So this is Winter Springs. Now this is even bigger. So they still have your forest, your thing, your VP, but it's a lot bigger board. And it kind of keeps your victory points and all this stuff up there. And then on the flip side of that is just a blank one. And so like, wait, how can I play with a blank one? I don't have anything. That's one of the fun things that came with the core box. Is we got all these little hex tiles with extra forests and hills on the other side. So you can basically make your own map. So like, you could go ahead and have a forest over here, and then have a couple of hills down here. So that's actually really cool that they did that. Then you also got a bunch of tokens as well. So you got like Alliance and Horde tokens, Monster and Horde tokens, tokens that represent your totems for your characters, your summons. There's a bunch of different tokens that this game came with. Spawn points, you can figure out where you want to put your spawn points or VP. So I could put a VP point there. Horde starting spot over there. I got a Void Walker. I have a Fire Totem. So yeah, here I have a spawn point. I could have someone spawn like up on top of this hill if I wanted to. So this also makes this really fun. Is you have the core set came with these. Now I do have these paper ones too that I'm guessing I'm guessing what happened was the original core set probably led me to a link on a website which had me go print these off, because I also have like Green Mountains and Hills, which are all just on this glossy paper I have. So I'm guessing, if I don't remember, I'm assuming that's what they had me do, is go print all that stuff off. You also got little extra tokens like this for attack -1 or attack +1, move +1, move -1. So if you have buffs and debuffs from various characters, we have some armors, +1 and -1. I got a bunch of bases here, plus a bunch of dice. So our dice are gonna be 8-sided or 10-sided dice. So you have 1 through 10 with your crit symbol. But you can get ones with different colors. So if you want to have one specific to your character's type. But yeah, that also makes that really fun. The other little printable things I got were stuff for like different abilities. So again, if you have specific buffs or debuffs or summons, I don't know if these are still available. You could maybe check Board Game Geek. Someone may have had these available. But this is just that way if you're playing with any of these buffs or debuffs from these various cards. You'd be able to like just lay that on a character so you know what's going where. Alright, then let's look at our characters. Or our cards. So, these were the 3 characters we were looking at initially. So we had, the 3 that I had out, we had, move my camera. So I had Leekar Frostburn. That was the Alliance Mage that we had. And then at the bottom of the thing, they say their name, what set they're from, and their rarity. She was a common. Yeah, so she has... All of these guys had 6 honors, so I picked guys with the same amount, so they're about equal. Human, Frost Mage, Human Mage, and Frost. So that might depict, depending on certain things she can use. There might be spells that she has to be a mage, has to be something, she has to be a human, she might have to have frost. Down here, the symbol also represents her skill. She has 1 melee armor, 2 magical resist, and 5 health. So she's not going to survive very long. But she has Frostbolt. So this is her basic attack that she always has. She can spend 3 kicks to do 3 range hit and do a magic frost damage attack for 3. So most of the time, the damage type isn't going to make a difference. Like where it says frost, some might say fire, some might say arcane. But there might be instances where they do, and that's why they list them. Plus, I think they're also trying to keep very thematic to the game. And then she has a crit. So she rolls a crit, she gets to put a move -1 counter on the defender, and remove that at the end of kicks 5 and 10. So buffs generally last till kicks 5 and 10. So if she was going to play this, she'd probably want to do this on like turn 1, which she's still on 1 tick. So that way, if it hits the opponent, they get -1 for a couple of turns. Or she's going to wait until they're already on turn 5 or 6, so it lasts till 10. It wouldn't make sense for her to do like a 4-kick action and then do this on clock number 4. Because then she could put that minus move on a character. It's going to go away after 1 hit. Not to say there aren't going to be instances where even if it slows that character down for 1 action, great. Because again, it's not necessarily their 5th action, but it could hit them in there, but it doesn't make sense. It'd be better to have them hit it, where maybe it might slow them for 2 actions versus 1. And then she has an innate ability, which is her static, which is Frost Armor. If the attacker rolls any 1s while attacking her, she adds 1 tick to the attacker. So that's kind of fun. So if they do roll terribly, she just can always come back at them. Then we have our Troll Hunter, Zazu the Grizzled. So there's him. And then we'll look at the bottom of his base. He's from Spoil, so he's from the 2nd set, and he's a core, or a common. So he's a hunter, marksmanship. He has 3 armor, 2 magic, and 7 health. So you can see the difference in there. He can take more physical damage, or defend against it better. He has a little bit better health, and he has the same resistance. So they cost the same. So what's the difference? One thing could be their damage. So he does 2 kicks, he does range 2 to 4, and he can deal 4 ranged damage. In crit, he heals 1. So healing's definitely nice. So from Soul String. But he does less overall damage. She just throws 6 dice versus 4. But he does have a range of somewhere between 2 to 4, where she can only hit at range 3. So positioning makes a difference in this game. It's not up to 3 spaces, it's at 3 spaces. So it does make a difference where you are in the game. And this really kind of simulates the video game a lot too, because it's you can't just cast a spell and hit someone from anywhere. You can't just swing your sword and hit them from anywhere. You have to be at the correct space. But then he also does have Old War Wounds, so he has -1 movable damage. So it's nice that he can heal, but if he takes damage, he's going to move less. So he kind of gets restriction. And then we did have, like, monsters as well. So we have the Frost Saber Prowler, who's a beast and a tiger. So, like, beast will come up a lot. Tiger might not come up as much. Again, they only did 2 sets. They probably planned some of this out in case they did a lot more. But he only has 1 armor, 3 magic resistance, 7 health as well. But he has Slash, 3 kicks, 1 space, 5 melee. So he has to be right next to a guy, but he does some decent melee. And if he hits a critical, he can make a melee attack against the defender. So he gets to do a 2nd attack if he hits a crit, which is very powerful. And then he has Ferocity. Prowler has +1 move. So this guy can actually move 3 spaces. He can almost do a double hit. So he's actually pretty powerful for a monster. But that also makes sense. They didn't make monsters weak. They could have went that route and been like all heroes are generally like 5, 6, 7 honor. Monsters are like 2 or 3, and they make you want to have 5, 6 monsters. If they had a mode where you're playing against an AI, I could definitely see that. Like, make weak versions of the monsters, so you could fight them. But then, like, this, like, if I'm playing as them, I want to be able to, like, have a chance at winning. Alright, so there's that. Now we're just going to quickly go through some of the other cards. So I'm just going to show up, I'm not going to read through the abilities, just to show some different ones. So some different, Horde characters. We have, like, a Blood Elf Warlock here, who has some Drain Life abilities. We have the Troll Rogue, who has his own personal regeneration. He's, going to be sneakier. We have Horde, or Alliance characters. We have a Human Warrior, some more melee. And then it's got fire resistance. So it says, well, he's defending against fire attacks is +2. So that's where I said not all the time that fire and frost is going to make a difference, but for this guy, it certainly does. And then we have, like, Amon Darkheart, the human warlock, who does destruction, with Shadow Bolt and Life Cap. And he actually gets kind of a special extra instant ability down here. So he can deal 1 damage to himself, and he pays 1 less to use his next action. So he gets this almost like a second ability. Then we do have some different monsters. We have an Iron Fur Bear. There's another Beast Bear who has some different stuff. And then we have, who has only 5, and we have a big guy here. We have Archmage Argrol. So he's a human mage with Arcane, who has 10, so he costs a lot more, but he also has legendary status. So some of these characters are going to be some of the more well-known characters in the story, versus just your, like, named characters. So that's actually kind of really cool, too. So he gets a little bit bigger abilities, but he has teleportation, and he has the legendary keyword, which says, words double VP when destroyed. Can also play no more than 1 legendary character. So now he has 10 honor, which is great. He does double VP, so somebody defeats him, they're going to do 8. But he doesn't look at it. He only has 8 health. So you have to just debate if his abilities are worth it, because, like, I can play this bear that has 9 health. So that's kind of thing. What's also neat, though, is that this guy, even though he's a human and a mage, he's not in the lines. He's green, so he's actually, even though there's a class type here of being a mage, he's still considered a monster. So he's very powerful to maybe mix with some of the other monsters. Then we're going to have a bunch of ability cards. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each one of these. But you're going to have different stuff, like different class requirements. So this one requires a shaman. So I have the name, and usually the class symbol to help match that. We have, like, one for a rogue. I'm going to look at them a little bit more detail in just a sec. This one specifically requires a bounce druid. So this would be your type. So, like, this guy says mage, he's arcane. You'll have one that says druid and bounce. So not every druid can use that. So it's a class specialization. This one's for monsters, but specifically for the worgen. So only worgens. So my tiger and the bear I showed were both beasts. They can't use this card. This one is for Varamathus. So this is specifically for the legendary character Varamathus. Only he can use it, even though it's a warlock class. And then there's generic ones, which can be used by anybody or any class or race. So let's actually look at the different types of cards. We have various attacks. So these are the different types of attacks you can use. So this one's from a warlock. Its attack does fire damage. It's part of the destruction trait. But it does not require. Only if it says up here is what it requires. But this costs 2 ticks to use. Does a range of 3, and it does 4 magic damage. So this attack does +1 magic for each debuff on the defender. So if your character does a lot of debuff stuff, this is definitely great. If it's critical, if you crit, you can ready this card, so you can use this multiple times. So if like you do this on turn 1, boom, hit the guy, you know, if you get 3 spaces away, depending on how big the board is, or whenever you hit them, crit, you know, ready this. You could use this a second time right away. In the turn, you might be able to use this, you know, multiple times before it would refresh. We get like, this is a one for a monster, but it's for the ogre. 3 cost, 3 range, and 5 power to boulder toss, who does range. Crit, move the defender 1 space. We can get special attacks like the Moonfire for a druid. 2 cost, 2 range, 4 magic, which is a debuff attack. So this crit does +1 damage. After the attack, attach this debuff to the defender. At the end of ticks 5 and 10, the debuff character takes 1 damage. Yeah, so these debuffs are kind of fun, because buffs and debuffs you can put on the character and then they stay. But now at the end of round 10, all these cards are refreshed, so this is go back. So if you cast this on before tick 5, you get the extra 2 damage. You cast it after turn 5, you only get 1. And after 10, it goes back to your character. Then we have reactions, which are special cards that can only be played in certain instances. So they're not always cheap, depending on what they are. But this is Intercept for the warrior class. Costs 1, has a range of 3, but it says play only at the start of a tick before any characters have taken a turn. Teleport this character to the nearest empty space adjacent to the target, and add 1 tick to that enemy. So this is kind of fun. So it's basically like, if I'm playing as my character and the other person's just about to take their turn, it's about, you know, it's turn 4, they're about to go. I could play this quick, move right next to that character, and now they don't get to act until next turn. Now this could be even more beneficial if I click on turn 4 as well, because now I can play this and be right next to them and attack them. If nothing else, though, it might just prevent, even if I don't go to turn 7, I can play this to at least stop them, maybe from moving and attacking one of my other characters. Like this is another one, Counter Spell. So it's another reaction. Play only when enemy plays an ability other than a melee attack. Negate that ability. They can shut down magic attacks. But only, again, at a range of 3. Quick Reflexes. So this one doesn't require any classes. But it says play only when enemy kicks this character. When an enemy kicks this character up, subtract that many kicks from this character. The character can't be kicked up by enemies this turn. So that other ability, move next to a character, kicked up their counter 1. Now if I had this, I could flip this over and use it, but like boom, instead, not only do I not lose 1, I gain 1. Alright, not only do I not gain a kick, I actually subtract 1. So instead of thinking you were delaying me a turn, I get to attack quicker. It wouldn't work as well with that one because the guy was about to go anyhow. But the idea is I get to go faster. And then we have instant cards. Instants cost nothing. Or usually nothing. I won't say they always do, but typically they don't cost anything. And they're just there. They're there. You can play them like really fast to do something. And then they're usually not attacked. So you like buffs or other things like that. So like Frost Nova here has a range of 0. Says add 1 tick to each adjacent enemy. So basically I just like, you know what? Boom, flip this over. Everyone around me gets hit by this AoE attack. Which AoE is area of effect. And they have to add 1. So that's actually kind of nice. We have like a generic one like Fog of War. Characters can only target adjacent allies and enemies this tick. So this gets the almost, the other one hits everyone right around them. This one basically says you can only target people around whoever's next to you, so it prevents you from using long-range attacks. There are other ones like Instant Heal and Items. So it actually puts a healing icon on there. So this does a power of 2. So I roll two dice and I'm trying to heal for 2. Just kind of fun. So if you have a weaker character, you can always give yourself potions or target, target yourself. It's a 0 range, you have to target yourself. And then there's something like instant form for druids. So this acts as instant. I can change into my bear form, and I gain 1 armor and 1 health, and a new ability called Maul, and Taunt. So Maul gets you 3 attack, 1 range and melee 5, and Taunt adjacent enemies. Attacks and must target an enemy character with Taunt if able. Just kind of fun. You get changing into different stuff. We also have other special skills like totems for shamans. Just put your little token on the board that has 1 health. This is a thing of ticks 5 and 1. This totem makes a 4 fire attack against each enemy on or adjacent to its space. And it does 1 crit of damage. So like the totems, they kind of sit on the board and they, help protect or heal or do some other effect. We can also summon pets. So Warlock can summon Hurricane. So it puts a little extra miniature or thing on the board. So now this is what's really fun, is if you have enough of the miniatures, there's a miniature for this character, which you could play as a monster by itself, or if you're not using those characters, you could actually have this guy come out and have like a physical miniature on the board. If not, you can use like the little pictures I showed. So this is a Void Walker. He has a claw attack. He has a taunt. But then we also have like Call of Bones. So this is the bear that we saw on the other card. You could summon him with a hunter who has claw and protector. So we have a few other different ones. We have this one, like Mocking Blow, which doesn't specifically have any sort of thing. It's not an attack. It's not an instinct. Just when you play it, it says target enemy takes 1 damage. Then make an attack against this character if able. The target's controller chooses the attack and pays all costs. So basically I can go up, smack someone for 1 hit, and then they get to hit me back. So, but that's the thing. It says they immediately makes an attack against the character. So what's fun there is you might be like, well, what's the point of that? Well, 1 damage might be enough to take them out. Great. If not, what it's also doing, though, it's forcing them to attack. So, if I was playing, if I walked up and I hit this tiger, he would have, unless he has one of his other cards, he would have to use his action bar cards. He would have to hit me for 3, which, yes, maybe it's not the greatest thing for me to do, but he would have to take 3 ticks, which would make his turn last longer. It's kind of like a taunting attack. And the final 2 cards I want to go through before I end this video are equipment. So the second set, Spoils, add an equipment card you could do. So these still work with your action bar, but you can add them. They add extra honor, so it adds to your total honor. And on the little side here, it shows what classes can use it. So Priest, Druid, Shaman, Mage, and Warlock can use this, the Soul Seeker. It's just a 2-handed weapon. And they list that partly because it was also the World of Warcraft trading card game, so they're kind of using assets and trying to keep some of the stuff in line with that, even though it's a different game. But it's also probably just so you can't have so if you want, I'm just going to use weapons and not use my other abilities, you can't have more than 2 hands worth of weapons. So this character's attack gains crit if the defender has remaining 2 health or left after the attack, destroy it. So basically it adds an extra fun little effect to your character. You also get stuff like this one, which works for any class. The X-52 Rocket Helm only has 1 armor, or 1 honor, it's an armor. Character has flight, ignores terrain and move penalties, and can move through enemies. So that might be helpful if you have a character that really needs to just get around. That's something else you could also do. Alright, so that's the World of Warcraft miniatures game. I know this is a long video. I hope I basically explained how it works. You can check out part 2, where I'm going to go through all the characters, which might be a 2-parter video, because there's a lot of characters. There's like 120 plus characters, even though I don't have all of them. But even if I do 60 characters, that might be a long video. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you got questions, go ahead and ask me. I'll try and answer them as best as I can. Yeah, fun game, neat mechanic with the kicking. I don't know if they've done it in any other games since this. I haven't ever seen it myself. I could definitely see a game like this maybe coming back as like a living type. They're called living card games, so I could see it coming back as something like that, like on like a Kickstarter. Where like, hey, here's a bunch of characters, here's a bunch of like solid packs rather than booster packs. I think booster packs are what are like kill a lot of this stuff, especially something like this where I don't need all these duplicates. You know, like having a couple extra monsters is kind of nice. So if I want to use them for summons or I want to have multiple things, but I generally didn't want 2 of every character. The only other reason to have multiples of the characters would be for the cards, but again, that would be just better solved by being like, you know, buy this box, here's, you know, 5 Alliance characters, 5 Horde characters, you know, and here's 2 of every card. So that way I could, you know, either side could use the same card and that, rather than having to try and hunt down the same character twice just for the cards. Especially then when you've got some characters that had specific ones. Like some of the monsters, which only the Warden could use it. Well, great, I don't need 4 Warden cards. Where if I have multiple Druids, I could have all the Druids using the same cards. Type of thing. Like I can have 3 Druids all using bear form, but if I have a Warden card, I can only use it if I have Wardens. And if you've only released 1 Warden, you know, there we go. Plus, as of this came out in 2008, 2009. They've released a lot more content in World of Warcraft since then. Like just talking about the Warden, they've released the Warden as a playable character. There was 1 Pangarian monster in the set. But they didn't have them in here yet as playable characters. So that's a different one. They have new classes out. A lot more interesting stuff that could be added to this. But I think it would be more beneficial as a like living game. Like, hey, here's new stuff that comes out with set stuff in every box. Like you do with Star Wars miniatures and stuff like that. Alright, see you guys in the next video. Bye.